TG Geeks, episode 19, April 20th, 2015. Can we just make it through the week? Hello, and welcome to another webcast from tggeeks.com, where Ben and Keith, the two gay geeks, talk about all aspects of geekdom and nerdery. Sci-fi, comics, film, horror genre, you name it, we talk about it. I am Keith Lane, your producer here at TG Squared Studios in lovely Phoenix, Arizona.
And I'm Ben Raggington, also in, and it really is right now today, lovely Phoenix, Arizona. Okay, so let's start this off with some TV news, and I think probably the big TV talk that's going on right now is something that just happened on the most recent episode of Arrow. We had to say goodbye to somebody, and
my Lord.
I think for some people this was not expected and certainly not desired.
Yeah, I was a little perplexed as to why that character specifically had to leave. Unless they're going to spin that character off into the
something
spin-off,
else?
Yeah, the spin-off series that's coming. Who knows? That's certainly, I'm hoping that is the possibility.
Well, for those people who don't know,
spoiler.
You might want to move ahead a little bit. I'm going to give a 5-second countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Colton Haynes, why did you have to leave?
Yes, oh my God. That's out of the blue.
Well, I was reading a story on this, and apparently he had only been contracted for 2 seasons.
Well, I know that he only was supposed to be in a couple of episodes, and then
originally,
all of a sudden, here he is a series regular.
Yeah, he came in as Roy Harper, obviously, right towards the latter part of season 1, and then I guess, from what I read, the showrunners thought he did such a great job, and I suppose his numbers, or whoever reviewed it, thought he was just perfect for the part. So they then offered him a series regular contract, and little did we know it was only for 2 seasons.
Wow. I hope they pick him up. I know he's supposed to be in another episode this season, one more.
Yeah.
But I hope they pick him up for the spinoff, because he's really, besides being really cute, he's
adorably gorgeous. And the whole way they handled his departure was just very unusual. Faking his death. Yeah. I mean, how many times do we have to fake deaths now?
Exactly.
I mean, first we think Oliver Queen is dead. Now Colton Haynes is dead, and with all the talk about the actress who played the original Black Canary, how she's going to be in this new spin-off, a lot of people are thinking, really, is Sarah Lance not really dead? I mean, that could become a really bad trope, and I'm hoping they don't go down that road.
Yeah, because then can Daddy come back or Mama come back?
And the way this episode ended was a bit of a shocker anyway, with Ra's al Ghul running a sword straight through Thea.
Oh my God. Yeah, that.
And we know that the Lazarus Pit's going to have something to do with that, only because of the trailer.
Right.
But anyway, back to Colton. The world now thinks that both Roy Harper, and the Arrow are dead, because Roy exposed himself to the public as the Arrow just to save Oliver's skin. I mean, the only person who knows better is the detective, Laurel's father. He knows better. He knows that this was all just some big ruse to save Oliver's skin. But the rest of the world thinks that Roy and Oliver are dead. So now they can just kind of like vanish off into the sunset, which is pretty much what we saw. Of course, this means that Oliver can now move on with his life without any suspicion of being the Arrow. It also means, unfortunately, that Roy has to leave Starling City because he can't show his face anymore. So he's off to start new life with a new identity, which means no interaction with Team Arrow on a regular basis. What only gives me a little bit of hope is that there was a quote that came from a rep from Warner Brothers Television where they said, Colton will not be returning to the show as a series regular in season 4, but will appear in one additional episode this season. Like all characters that exist in this universe, there's always the potential for him to return moving forward. And of course, there is talk about him making some periodic appearances in some other works. As for why, I haven't read anything from Colton as to why he decided to do this. I mean, I follow him on Twitter. There's been nothing that I've seen so far. He hasn't made any statements on this.
Well, maybe he's contractually bound because maybe there is something else going down the pike, you know.
Well, there might be, but on the other hand, he's become enormously popular. His popularity really began to rise in the first season of the MTV series Teen Wolf. So that's how he got noticed for Arrow. So I don't know. Maybe he feels like it's a great opportunity to branch off and to do other things, you know, to kind of expand his career. And if so, I wish him the best of luck. But at the same time, I hope he certainly comes back because I would really, really be sorry to see him go.
Yeah.
That would
it'd be good if they would pick him up for, you know, at least a spinoff because apparently, you know, Ray Palmer or the Atom is supposed to be in the other series. So that would be good if he could make a recurring role over there.
Yeah, that would be nice. So now let's touch a little bit on Daredevil.
Yes, the new thing. We're at episode 4 now. We've watched episode 4.
We've seen episode 4.
Oh my gosh!
And we had to literally turn to something else after we saw it because this was violent.
Yeah, it was a little grim.
Ooh. Okay. Unexpected pun there, and you'll understand why in a moment. But as far as Daredevil goes, we finally got a really good look at Kingpin.
Yep.
We finally got to see what this guy's all about, and he's sort of like DC's answer to Malcolm Merlin from Arrow, who I guess Hell's Kitchen is suffering from a lot of the same problems that the Glades in the Oliver or the Arrow universe is dealing with. So he wants to do the same thing, and that's completely tear it down.
Right.
But he wants to do it through mob rule, apparently.
Yeah, he's what do you call him? The anti-hero, if you will.
Well, ew. I don't know. I mean, it could be argued that the Daredevil is the anti-hero.
Yeah.
Because he's a vigilante.
True.
So, I mean, granted,
Kingpin is the anti-hero.
I would...
The uncle hero, maybe.
Cousin hero. I'm sorry. I should have gone down that road.
I led you down that path.
You led me down that path. I'm really sorry that you did. The Kingpin, in the beginning, we get this sense that he's actually a pretty decent guy because he says something to this woman who is, I guess, a curator of a gallery or maybe even an artist. And in order to have dinner with him, she makes this kind of joking proposition that's where she's willing to sell all of her work in this museum if it will allow him to take her out to dinner. And he comes back with a rather respectful response, and that is, any woman who could be bought is not worth having.
Yeah. He's kind of he seems like a good guy with a different sense of right and wrong.
Yeah, he certainly has a very questionable moral compass,
right,
to say the least.
Yeah, although that it depends on the issue as to where the moral compass points.
Yeah,
you know, so that's kind of it's an odd dichotomy, if you will.
Yeah, and for those people who who haven't seen it yet, be warned. There is something that is very ugly that happens right at the end of this episode, and to the point where I literally had to turn away because it was just beyond violent. He spoiler, he just decimates this guy's head in a car door. Yeah, just repeatedly slams it, and you hear the crunch, and there's just this gush of blood. I mean, you don't see the actual head itself, thank heaven. I don't think Netflix would even allow that to show on the air.
But you did see brain matter.
Yeah, you saw brain matter, lots of blood. It was just really, really disgusting, and I think rather shocking. But I think that's generally the tone of this show.
Yeah, we'll have to get back to it.
Yeah, I think we'll be getting back to it today. But after we saw that, we had to take a break. We had to go for something a little bit lighter. So our idea of lighter
was Grimm.
Was watching Grimm.
Actually, we decided to pick this up because when we were working with Slice of Sci-Fi, we had interviewed both Reggie Lee, who plays Sergeant Wu, and Claire Coffey, who is Adeline Shade. And at the time when we did that, that was 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah, about 2 years ago.
And we had so much that we were watching, and it was already 2 years into the run. And we didn't feel like picking up, and watching 2 years worth of episodes to get caught up to be able to watch current. So what do? We wait till it's 4 years into its run.
Yeah, but luckily we found the entire series, or at least the first few seasons, available for free on Amazon Prime.
Yeah, so it really is. We decided to pick it up. We're 4 or 5 episodes into that and really like it.
What is it about? What is it about the show that you like?
It really is I don't know. I just like it.
Well, I'll tell you one thing that I do like is that, of course, a lot of these ideas are based on the Grimm fairy tales.
Right. And it's kind of a procedural in a sense with a twist. And it
well, they're already hinting that there's a bigger purpose going on. I keep referring to it. So we know that, yes, on the surface it appears to be a procedural, but there is an arc of some sort.
Yeah, and that's kind of what brings me back is to say, what the heck is going on? Because they keep hinting at these different things going on, a bigger story going on.
And, for example, one of the things that I really enjoyed was in a recent episode, it was a whole new take on the Three Bears.
Yeah, that was great.
And then just before that, I think they did an episode on Little Red Riding Hood.
Yes. And that sets up a new character.
With the whole big bad wolf, yeah.
Yeah, which is really kind of cool. I mean, he's a neat character to add to the Grimm playing, or a Grimm is if you're not familiar with the series, a Grimm is a monster hunter, if you will.
Yeah, who apparently, from what I gather, he's got some unique skills aside from just being able to look through and pick out, I guess they're called hexen beasts.
Well, he can look through and see all of the monsters, if you will.
Yeah, he can make out, but I think the big bad villains are referred to as hexen beasts in this particular series. I'm just guessing.
Well, she is a hexen beast.
Well, the character
Shade is.
Yeah, Adeline. She's
all
a hexen
of the
beast.
others are varying characters, or varying beasts or monsters themselves.
Yeah, we've seen bees, which is a little creepy. I didn't care for that. So where this is going to go, I'm kind of excited about it. Everybody says that the first season is absolutely amazing, and then it kind of takes a downward turn after that in quality. So I don't know. We'll have to wait and see on that.
Yeah.
But for now, it's not kind of nice to find new for us.
Yeah.
That we can just really kind of immerse ourselves in, and it does make for a great diversion from trying to mainline Daredevil, because I think Daredevil is just way too dark a series to try and sit through in one big viewing.
Yeah, and I don't want to mainline Grimm either, because...
No, I kind of want to enjoy that one. There's something fun about seeing it. I mean, maybe catch 2 episodes every other day instead of waiting 1 per week.
Right.
But it still allows us to savor the enjoyment.
Yeah.
So that's been kind of fun.
And something now a little bit different. It's not quite TV.
No.
But it is...
But it is episodic.
It is episodic.
And that is... It Takei's 2. This is a little... How
do you describe it?
Wow. It's, I guess you could call it a somewhat comical peek into the life of Star Trek actor George Takei and his husband Brad. And Brad, as of late, has been kind of characterized as being this... He's somewhat of a grumpy curmudgeon.
Yeah. But he's really not.
He really isn't. We met him.
We met both of them a number of years ago.
A number of years ago, it was
an HRC event.
Yeah, it was a private event for the Human Rights Campaign, and I'd already met George a number of times through cons. So, but those were just kind of little passerby things where I just chat with him and say, really dug the last show, something like that. But while we were, while George was out wandering, talking to other people, Brad just walked right up to us.
Yeah.
He just, I mean, because you and I were just kind of standing off by ourselves, just surveying the scenery. And then Brad just comes right up to us and starts chatting up with us. And he was such a nice man. And to put a timestamp on this would have been about 2006.
Something like that. George had just come out.
Well, not only that, but I just remembered that George had just recently made his first appearance on the Howard Stern show. And that was the first episode in 2006 on Sirius XM. So that's how I remembered it, because George hadn't come back yet, and I remember talking to Brad about it, and Sirius was still kind of a new thing, and Brad wanted to know how we were listening to Howard Stern, because it turns out Brad's a huge Stern fan. So he wanted to know how we were listening to it. So we had this great conversation with Brad, and he was just such a pleasant guy.
Yeah. Anyway, it's on YouTube. We've got a link on the website. So if you're listening on from the player on the website, from the article, you can scroll down a little bit, and there's 2 episodes now. There's Seriously Part 1 and Seriously Part 2. So it's episode 1 and episode 2. They are really funny. They're about 3 minutes apiece. And the intro is kind of a
homage to Bewitched.
And to Jetsons. And
a little bit, yeah,
because,
a little bit.
Because in the Jetsons intro, she screams George, and then George comes up, and so that's kind of what it's.
Yeah, but there's a bit of a Jetsons, but the animation style is very much in the vein of Bewitched.
Yes,
especially the way George lands in Brad's arms.
Yeah,
I mean it's so Samantha and Darren.
Yeah, it's kind of a cute little
very
series.
charming.
So go to YouTube and subscribe.
Yes.
And now we have some birthdays. Here are the few selected birthdays for April 20th through the 26th, 2014. April 20th is George Takei. How about that? He's
Imagine
77. That. Andy Serkis is 50. Clint Tranya Howard is 55. On April 21st, James McAvoy is 35. Robbie Amell is 26. And Michelle Missy Gomez is 43. How about that? I know you didn't want to hear that.
Not really, no.
And the Queen, Elizabeth II, is 88 on April 21st. April 22nd, Jack Nicholson is 77. John Waters is 68. Some unusual films from John Waters.
To say the least.
Unusual, yes, to say the least. April 23rd, Lee Majors.
The
75.
$6 million man.
He's been such a good boy.
Yes.
Dev Patel from Best Marigold Hotel is 24. And Max Planck was born in 1858 on April 23rd.
Now, who's Max Planck?
Max Planck was a physicist. He was the one that, a theoretical physicist, more quantum mechanics related, because the Planck length is named after Max Planck.
Okay.
Don't ask me to talk about the Planck theory or Planck length. Anyway, April 24th, Barbara Streisand is 74. Shirley MacLaine is 80. And Jimon Honsu, he was the
guy who was working for Ronin.
Right. He was the robot
type
person. He's 50 on April 24th. April 25th, Ella Fitzgerald would have been 79. On April the 26th, Channing Dreamy Tatum.
Yes, very dreamy.
34. Jet Li is 51. Tom Welling is 37. And Carol Burnett is 81.
Wow, and still looks great.
And those are the birthdays for April 20th through the 26th, 2015.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat. Delicious things to eat. The popcorn can't be beat. The sparkling drinks are just dandy. The chocolate bars and the candy. So let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Now we're going to talk about, we don't have a promo to run because
We didn't get one.
We didn't get one. All of the links were broken, unfortunately. For Technorama, we were going to do Technorama. Technorama's 10-year anniversary show will be released on April the 29th. That's Chuck Tomasi and Craig Stepp. And we are part of that show periodically whenever we make it up there to tape with them. And it's a great show. Give them a listen.
Yeah, it's sort of the lighter side of geek, if you will.
Yeah, and tech, the lighter side of tech. And they have some bits and bobs that they do, this day in history and some tech things, etc. So it's really a lot of fun.
It's a very enjoyable show.
It's a great show, and they have a lot of fun doing the show.
Yeah.
So give them a listen over there, and you can go to chuckchat.com to find out more about Technorama.
Do it. Okay, now into the news of movies. Now, wow, this one kind of just caught me off guard. And I'm very, very unsure about how I feel about this. Apparently, now, we all know that some while ago there was a big email leak from Sony Studios. It was quite a scandal. The president of Sony, she eventually had to step down.
I don't think she was president. She was
pretty high up.
President.
Vice president? Well, she was
VP.
pretty high up, and she ended up taking pretty much the fall for the entire thing.
Yeah.
Well, WikiLeaks, they went ahead and published a searchable database of more than 30,000 documents and 173,000 emails from that Sony hack. And one of the things that they found was, well, in January 2014, there was an email from Sony talking about
Are you ready for it?
Yeah, well, Andrea Wong to company CEO Michael Lighton. Wong claims there is, quote unquote, tremendous interest from the BBC to do a Doctor Who film. Why? Oh boy. However, according to the email, the team currently running the show wasn't interested at the moment, but was looking at the possibility of a future film. So the story is a film won't happen in the next year to 18 months. That's not much. But it is expected that it'll happen within the 8-year horizon, according to Wong.
Oh, well, how much more nebulous can you be?
I know, that's a very, very vague. Now, for those people who've been living in a cave or living on the dark side of the moon, Doctor Who is a cult TV series produced by the BBC. It's been running on British television from 63 to 89, and then it was rebooted in 2005 on Welsh BBC. It revolves around the time-traveling adventures of this man named the Doctor, who we learn long time ago is Time Lord, and his sidekicks as they fight an array of villains, often saving many lives in the process, and having lots and lots and lots of interpersonal drama.
Really? You're what?
I'm sorry I went there.
Wow. Everybody knows who the Doctor is.
Well, I would hope everybody knows who the
At
Doctor
least
is.
the people listening to our show.
I would hope that everybody knows I don't want to hear anybody out in our audience saying Doctor Who.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
really don't want to hear that. I'm sorry, people. Yeah, that's not cool. But yeah, there's all that talk.
I don't know how I feel about that.
Well, I'm
in the current incarnation.
No.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
I mean, we got to give this another season. I mean, they spent an entire year, and we've gone over this on our show. We've gone over it on Fusion Patrol, the other podcast I work with, and about how unnecessary this past season was with all of this Clara not knowing who the Doctor really is, which was
Clara nonsense.
Yeah, the whole rubbish about Clara just questioning who this man is after having spent some time with him, after having gotten to know every possible incarnation of the Doctor up to that point, and now she's questioning who he is. I mean, I'm sorry. I thought it was very, very bad characterization on her part. So hopefully they've put that to bed now. So I'm really hoping that maybe this season they can start with something fresh. And if they do really start fresh and hit the ground running, well, maybe that does put them in a position to do a film.
Yeah, I would hope that they would, the writing, well, I would hope that Moffat doesn't have anything to do with the movie if they do a movie.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I kind of get the feeling that Moffat is...
He's the one that's not wanting to do it, I'm sure.
Well, that's last I heard.
Because, of course, he's trying to kill the show, obviously,
Well,
with his writing.
Sometimes that's how it feels. We know that he also works on Sherlock with co-creator and co-writer Mark Gatiss. And Moffat has been quite clear in that he really, really does enjoy working Sherlock in a big way. And for those people who don't know, Moffat has expressed interest in doing a Sherlock Doctor Who crossover.
No.
Yeah, I don't quite know how I feel about that.
Shut up! Shut up!
Okay. No more on that. No more on that subject. So next up, there was a new trailer that dropped for the new Terminator film, Terminator Genesis. For those people who don't know, this will be the latest in the Terminator series. And it's got some interesting little twists to it. I don't know how I feel about this. I mean, I am normally a really, really big fan. I have been a fan of the first two Terminator films. I hated the third one because I think that made a mockery out of Arnold Schwarzenegger's character. So I was not very keen when I heard that they were going to be doing this. And of course, there was a Terminator series that went very off the rails at some point, introduced UFOs and aliens, and became just a complete mess. So then we've got this trailer for Terminator Genesis, and
oh my.
It starts off looking, I mean, obviously you have to have a different cast now because you want them to look a little bit younger, more contemporary for today. But the story seems to pretty much track until all of a sudden, instead of Kyle Reese, the hero from the first film, instead of him rescuing Sarah, thank you, Sarah Connor, instead of him rescuing Sarah, she rescues him. She's fully up to speed with everything that's going on, and surprise, surprise, there is Arnold Schwarzenegger's older Terminator/Protector working right beside her. So there's a real big skew in the timeline.
Yeah.
And then, lo and behold, her son shows up as an adult who, well, let's just say he's not all that he meets up. I mean, spoilers, here's a spoiler now. According to the trailer, he's a cyborg.
A different cyborg.
A different type of cyborg. It's revealed that Connor, John, is part organic, part metal cyborg. And it turns out that, well, at least the trailer seems to indicate that he's the real villain of this movie.
Interesting.
It is quite interesting. I mean, this trailer shows that the latest Terminator film it's going to completely tear up the rule book when it comes to the established chronology of this franchise. And I think that's kind of why I'm interested in seeing it. It's almost like they're taking a page out of J.J. Abrams' playbook when he
reboot.
did... Yeah, well, when he did the Star Trek movie in 2009. And that is to not just redo the series of movies and completely disregard, I mean, just like pretend the original franchise didn't happen. No, it's to kind of reset it and start it off in a new direction while acknowledging the old direction still exists. I think that's what they're doing here. So I'm curious. As I said earlier, I was more interested in seeing, with the earlier Terminator movies, I was interested in seeing them because they were fun. They were great action films. This one, not so much for the action. I'm more interested to see how they're going to try and work this into the timelines, or how they're going to change the timeline and still pay respect to the previous movies that came out.
Right.
So that's Terminator. Not entirely sure when that movie is coming out. I don't have anything on it. Well, it's supposed to be released in the UK on July 3rd, 2015. So I would imagine it's going to be released in the States.
I thought it was 17th or something like that.
For here?
Yeah, I think I saw that on IMDb.
It could very well be.
So,
all right. So now, Batman versus Superman. This is a trailer that's, I guess it's supposed to eventually. It shows that it's a sequel to the most previous Superman film, Man of Steel. There's no question about it because they brought back the same actor who played Superman. Different actor playing Batman this time. They got Ben Affleck doing it. So it seems like they're going to just totally disregard the Christopher Nolan movies that came out with, I can't think of the actor's name now, who played Bruce Wayne at the time. But at the same time, some of the equipment, especially the Batmobile, looks very much in style with the Chris Nolan films. So I kind of wonder, is this supposed to be all in the same universe? I mean, did Bruce Wayne come back as Batman? It's hard to say. Now,
Bruce Wayne came back as Superman.
It wouldn't make this any better, to be perfectly honest. It really would not help in this particular situation. I'm going to go off on my own little personal rant here. I did not watch Man of Steel.
Warning, warning.
And I will admit, I thought the trailer for Dawn of Justice looked interesting. But if I were to see it, it would be with enormous reservation. Here is why. The previous Superman film, Man of Steel, took the character that I grew up with as a child and totally turned that universe into something that was very dark, very bleak. Some people would say accurate. And I suppose that is indeed the case. I mean, in Man of Steel, you have this superpowered alien who comes down, and the world, being the paranoid, populated place that it is, naturally took a rather alarmed reaction to the appearance of the Man of Steel, because they didn't know what to make of him. I mean, here comes a superpowered being. I mean, is he friend? Is he foe? I mean, we're going to assume he's a foe. I mean, that's just the nature of the people on the world today. So, yes, it could be argued that Man of Steel is a more accurate depiction of what would happen should Superman truly appear on Earth. I personally don't like to think in that manner. I grew up with the comic books like so many other people did, and in that world, Superman was very much a hero. He was not worshipped as some kind of false god. Everybody knew that he was an alien from another planet who simply wanted to use the talents and the powers that he had to help other people. And if there were other villains that were on the scene, he would do his best to stop the villain, but do so without any kind of casualties, so that he didn't want to see the loss of life in any sort of way. There's a phrase for that, and the phrase escapes me right now. But in any case, Superman was all about helping people, and he would never put a person's life in front of or behind stopping an alien or stopping a threat. He would never do that. And in Man of Steel, what did we get? We got Superman and General Zod literally laying waste to Metropolis in this battle. I mean, it was horrible. And what do we get? We now have Superman who, when it's all done, I mean, this didn't really happen, but basically you're telling a story that your hero is now raising his arms in victory, and he's saying, I did it, I vanquished my enemy, and you've got death and destruction all around you. I'm sorry, I can't accept that. And this is why I've been more leaning towards the Marvel films, because those heroes will go out of their way to save innocent lives. That's what makes the Marvel movies, I think, better. That's what makes those characters truly heroic, as opposed to what we're getting here in these DC movies. I mean, you've got Superman, who, despite the fact that he was raised by humans, seems to have a very alien outlook on life. And then you've got Batman, who will trample through everybody and anybody, I mean, to get his mission accomplished. I mean, Batman is the epitome of the ends justify the means.
Yeah, and it really is anti what the characters in the comic books stood for.
Absolutely.
Both of them.
I mean, even though Batman comes from a very dark place, he was never the kind of hero that would just walk over an innocent victim just to get to his bad guy.
Right.
And that's kind of how they're portraying this. And I find that highly reprehensible. I just do not like what they're doing with the DC films. Like I said, I might see this, I might not.
Yeah.
The trailer did look good, but as we've all discussed many times, trailers can sometimes look infinitely better than the finished product. Yeah. And I think that's the case here. So, yes, Batman versus Superman, yeah, it dropped. And I'm trying to see if I've got a release date on that. I honestly don't know. I personally don't care. Just, if that's the kind of movie you want to see, God bless you. It's good for the comic book franchise, but it's not something. Yeah, it's not something that I'm going to want to watch.
Yeah. Batman versus Superman.
Yeah.
Collateral damage.
Collateral damage, exactly.
All right.
So now to something that I'm very, very much looking forward to. The new trailer for Ant-Man dropped.
Yay.
This
It looks great.
great. So for those people who don't know, in Ant-Man, you've got this character, Scott Lang, who will be played by Paul Rudd. He gains the ability to shrink down to the size of an ant thanks to highly advanced suit designed by Hank Pym, who's going to be played by Michael Douglas. Now, the whole purpose is Scott can save the world if he can use the suit to pull off a heist. But that also means defeating Darren Cross, who will be played by Corey Stoll. Most people might remember him from the first season of House of Cards. And his powerful yellow jacket suit. So already Ant-Man is getting his arch nemesis. And what I kind of really like about this is there seems to be something a little bit light about it, which would be great because we're going to be going into Avengers Age of Ultron. And as much as that's going to be very action-packed, it looks like it's going to be a rather grim story. And Marvel has this wonderful tendency to want to break things up so that it's not one intense film after another intense film after another one. I mean, just like they did with Captain America Winter Soldier, they gave us something more on the light side with Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yay.
So I think they're going to do the same thing here. We've got Age of Ultron coming out in just a couple of weeks. And then in this, and I think this movie, I believe, does come out July 17th, Ant-Man. So we're going to have something that's going to be a bit lighter, a bit more on the more fun side, but still give us that Marvel adventure that I think is the big defining characteristic in all of these films. So the trailer is available, and as Keith mentioned earlier, it is available on our website. If you were just to go to tggeeks.com and find the posting for this episode, you could find the link there.
Yes. As with all these trailers, we've got Batman vs. Superman, Terminator Genesis, Ant-Man, and...
Oh, the one that everybody is now just completely gone, utterly bats for.
Star
a
Wars.
certain little film called Star Wars. Episode 7, The Force Awakens. Now, just this last week, there was a big Star Wars festival down in Anaheim, and J.J. Abrams was there. I believe Mark Hamill was there. I think a couple of other people from this movie were there. And this was the perfect time for them to drop the new trailer. And this is the first really, I would say the first full-length trailer that we've had for the film.
Right.
And I like so many other people. I mean, I saw a cartoon that was posted by our good friend Trampus Whiteman over at Dragonlance. And it's a picture of this curmudgeon-y kind of guy, sitting in front of a computer, and he's like, "Oh, the latest Star Wars trailer just came out. All right, well, I suppose I'll take a look at it and see how bad it is." And in the next frame, you see an 8-year-old boy with all his Star Wars toys.
Yeah, it was great.
And let's just say that when I saw this trailer, I felt the same way. It really... It spoke to my inner geek in such a bad way. I mean, I just came off this thing with a huge grin.
Yeah.
So a number of us were all talking. I mean, Keith made mention of Technorama a little while ago, and there was a big Technorama social gathering, and we were there with Chuck and with Craig Stepp and Mike Brian Brown, Mike Menegay from formerly of Slice, and we were all chatting, and Mike is being very, very skeptical about this movie. He's gone on to say that he thinks that this is another classic case of the trailer being better than the film. What do you say to that?
I liked the trailer. I really liked it.
I like the trailer too, but
it looks great.
I think it looks fantastic. I'm going to take the same side that Crazy Joe of Megapodzilla has on this. And it's something that a lot of us are forgetting. I mean, some of us are kind of a bit jaundiced because we really did not... So many of us did not care for what JJ did with Star Trek.
Yeah, I saw an article today. It's 5 film techniques J.J. Abrams will use to showcase his Star Wars universe.
Oh, please, what are they?
Well, let's see. He talks about the dolly shot, and he said not only is most of the films have a dolly shot where it zooms in, but this one, what he's doing with this is on the x-axis and the y-axis. There's 2 different things. One, there's motion happening on the x-axis, and on the y-axis there's motion as well. So it's a combination of 2 shots. Really, it adds to it. Of course,
I don't have a problem with that.
lens flares.
Oh God, lens flares.
Talking about lens flares, he's not going to do it as crazy as.
Well, he kind of got chastised
Yeah.
for the second Star Trek film. I mean, he had so many in there that his wife said, honey, I've gone blind.
Yeah.
So he had to take them out. And I think the whole lens flare thing has become such a joke now on the net
Right.
that I think even he's now a bit aware of it and realizes that that's something he just cannot really go to the bank with.
Yeah, and they're going to do shaky cam aerial battles.
Well, God. No
Yeah.
vomit cam, please.
Well, in the battles, I guess that's what they're going to do. That's what it appears. And canted angles, and then what else? Snap zoom. Those were the 5 things. The snap zoom, where you have a wide shot, and then all of a sudden it snaps to a close up, and it's like, it's very jarring. But we'll see. It looks interesting.
I don't necessarily have a problem with some of those things. I mean, the lens flares, obviously. I mean, that is so JJ. I mean, that if I see a Death Star that's painted red, I'm gonna laugh.
Big red ball.
If I see a gigantic red ball, I'm going to just laugh so hard.
Yeah.
But as far as those other film techniques, those don't necessarily bother me. I mean, George Lucas introduced when he did A New Hope. When that first came out, we saw some revolutionary filming techniques that just, I think they took the viewer to a completely new level, which was, I would assume is George's point. I mean, like, for example, coming down into the trench of the Death Star from the point of view of being inside an X-Wing fighter. Wow. No one had really quite done it to that degree. I mean, everybody talked about, when I remember going back to school and everybody talking about how they felt that tickle in their stomach, like they were really feeling it. I mean, that was kind of I wouldn't say a totally new, but it was really maximized in a beautiful way. So I think what Jake is going to do here is he's simply going to take some of the things that we've seen in previous Star Wars films and just kind of maybe expand on them by adding his own little touches. Now, the one thing, again, is JJ is a fan. He grew up watching Star Wars. This is something that is like a passion. He only did Star Trek because he could. It was offered to him, and at that time, the idea or the possibility of him doing Star Wars just simply wasn't there.
Star Trek? Paycheck?
Yeah,
Kind of
possibly. So, and I think that's why some of the things that we see in Star Trek, some of the production value, some of the settings are highly questionable because, hey, he's not a fan. So he just made what he made. Star Wars, he's a fan, and I have every hope that when in making this movie, that he is going to try to remain as faithful as possible to the vision that George Lucas created when doing at least episodes 4, 5, and 6. And one of the nice things that that I read in the story that JJ is definitely going to do is he wants to rely more on practical settings and effects. For those people who remember, in episodes 1, well, not so much maybe in episode 1, but definitely in episodes 2 and 3, the green screen usage was just off the charts. I mean, granted, it was able to paint these enormous settings, these grand vistas, which was nice because you're still in the process of universe building, and going very CGI and green screen can really cut cost when you're trying to make these really, really big sets. So I can appreciate that. I don't have a problem with it, but there's something nice about kind of bringing it back down to earth and going very practical, and that's something that JJ has said that he really wants to do. So I'm hopeful. Like I said, I think the trailer looks good, and the link to the trailer is on our website.
Yeah.
I would recommend everybody go take a look at it if you haven't. There's 2 really, really great cameos, if you will. One is a voice cameo, the other one is a face cameo. Definitely check it out.
Well, there's more than one cameo at the very beginning. That's my favorite scene, when they roll up on the big Star Destroyer that's crashed into the desert.
Well, okay, if you're going to call the Star Destroyer a character,
Yeah.
I suppose. And yes, that is an amazing scene
It's
of seeing an
incredible.
Imperial cruiser that has crashed into, I can only assume, is Tatooine. I can't imagine any place else where that... Yuma. Yeah, it's Yuma, Arizona. Absolutely. That or it's Tunisia. Take your pick.
Well, with the sand dunes, it's probably Yuma.
Well,
You never know.
it's hard to say. It could be Yuma. Who knows? But in any event, yeah, that opening scene did look really great. But in terms of characters,
Yeah.
there's
I know
two
what you're
really,
saying.
really great cameos. Check it out. It's a lot of fun. I'm very excited for it. And if memory serves, this movie is coming out, yes, December 18th, 2015. It will be starring Mark Hamill, Harrison Ford, Carrie Fisher, Adam Driver, and Oscar Isaac.
Yes. And December 16th, 2016, Rogue One.
Oh, Rogue One, yes, the first of the spin-off movies, the side stories.
That could be interesting.
That will...
There's nothing.
We got nothing on it.
We got nothing.
We have absolutely nothing on that movie except that they're making it.
Yep.
So your guess is as good as mine. I mean, there's rumors that it could be about Yoda. There's rumors it could be about Harrison Ford. I mean, it could be about Wedge Antilles. We have no idea. But believe me, as soon as we learn anything, we'll be talking about it here.
Yes. And now for something different. Our very own gay geek,
Uh-oh.
Ben, was on the Jimmy Kimmel show as part of the Wall of America.
Oh, God, that's
It
right.
was up in the upper right-hand corner. We have the video to the whole episode on YouTube. Now, it's not the ABC episode. They haven't released that whole episode yet, but on YouTube, there is the entire episode or the entire show, and we have a link to that in this article. And you can see Ben up in the upper right-hand corner. And you want to tell us what that was all about?
Well, I believe it was originally on Facebook. I saw a posting that said, I believe it was from the Facebook Jimmy Kimmel Live, and then it was retweeted, I should say shared, by Marvel, and they were saying, if anybody out there is interested in being on the Wall of America for this one particular Jimmy Kimmel episode where they have the entire cast of Age of Ultron, well, send us an email to this particular address and we'll put your name in the drawing. So, well, not drawing, but they would take your name for consideration. So I wrote in and simply said, sure, heck, I would love to be part of this. And then I got a very generic response. I would dare say everybody who expressed interest in this got this exact same response. And we were asked a couple of questions. And I mean, they wanted to know what our internet speed was. Would we be available for this time window? Because that's when Jimmy Kimmel normally tapes. And then they asked us a couple of interesting questions. The first one was, what separates you from the rest of the Marvel fanboy, fangirl pack? And so basically it's like, you have to sell yourself. Yeah, and admittedly, this is not one of my better talents, but I kind of sat there and thought about it. And Keith actually gave me the idea on how I was going to finish it up. But I started off by saying, is it because I've been reading comic books since I was 10? No, that's not it. Is it because I've been watching these Marvel movies so many times that I could actually recite every single line by heart? No, that's not it. It's because, and I wrote this in all caps, I'm gay, I'm geek, and I have a podcast.
There you go.
I felt that was my credential for being a part of this. And then the last point they wanted, they said, ask 3 questions pose us 3 questions that you would like to ask the cast and crew. Make 2 of them individual questions, and then make the third a general question for everybody on the show. And try to come up with questions that you think nobody else would dare to ask. So my first question was, this is for Scarlett Johansson. Have you ever thought about taking your character into the streets and walking up to a really hot guy and saying, hi, I'm Black Widow, but don't let that scare you? I mean, I thought that was just such a great question. The second one was to be directed towards Chris Hemsworth, and it was going to be this. Thor unquestionably has the most beautiful hair in all of the Marvel movies and of the Marvel characters. What kind of work is involved in keeping Thor's hair looking so beautiful in between takes while filming? And then the third question was, each of these characters that we've had throughout all the Marvel movies has been more than just some kind of two-dimensional character on the screen. Every one of them has developed some kind of life of their own. What has each one of you as an actor and actress brought to your character to help bring that character to life? So those are my 3 questions. And then I got another generic response saying, okay, sign up to be a part of The Wall. You go here, set up your account, blah, 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 blah. Here's the link. Please be sure to clock in or log in right at 3 o'clock because we start taping at 4:30 and we can only have room for so many people. Okay, so, well, for people who don't know, I work from home. So I figure, this is going to be really easy. I can just, quit work 2:30 and then spin my chair around from my work computer over to my personal computer and just sign right on. Boom, I'm good to go. And then a day before, I got another email. This was a personal from the one of the show producers. His name was Jamie, and he said, congratulations, one of your questions has been selected by the writers as an actual question they want to see asked to the cast of Avengers. He didn't tell me which one. I figured I was going to find that one out later. Or if they didn't, then I was just going to go with my Scarlett Johansson question. So he said, on Friday, or on the day we tape, we will actually send you a special link that will guarantee you a shot on The Wall. So I went ahead and finally got the link and went through all sorts of technical insanity because I got that email telling me about the link like 3 minutes to 3. And then there's this provision at the bottom of the email saying, if you are a Mac OS X user, please download Chrome as a web browser.
And you didn't have Chrome.
I don't have Chrome. I use Safari because I like Safari. I don't like Chrome. Whoops. Sorry, Google. So now I go through this madness. Okay, I finally get it downloaded. And now I'm in panic mode. I shouldn't have been. There's no reason for me to have been in panic mode after I finally logged on. Then it became infinitely clear. But needless to say, I got it down, and then I had to get a special Cisco plug-in so that I could actually be able to use the camera on my Mac instead of Skyping. They don't use Skype. They use Cisco as their means for webcamming, if you will. So finally get that up and running. And then had some sound problems, and there was some settings on my Mac that weren't quite right. So we went to the regular podcast setup. And in the meantime, Keith is busy. You're busy redecorating the house because
so we can have Marvel and cartoon and Disney stuff in the background.
Yeah, because for starters, right behind me is our patio door, and a lot of light comes in, and that would have completely blinded. It would have washed out my face, or not washed out my face, but it would have hidden my face in a shadow. So we're putting things up to block that, and then luckily I had some Iron Man posters and some Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. posters that we picked up at Disneyland about a year ago, or a little more than that. So we put those up, and on the counter next to me, got some Disney toys because ABC's owned by Disney, Marvel is owned by Disney, and the studio that Jimmy Kimmel tapes out of is owned by Disney, so I thought, well, let's add the Disney flair to it.
And Jimmy Kimmel is owned by Disney.
So finally I get on, and we're not all there. Not all of us. I mean, some of us are kind of clicking in a little bit at a time. I was like the 6th person to finally get in, but they finally got all 12 of us, and wow, what a collection of nerds. Man, it was awesome. The funny thing was, everybody looked at me when I came in. Everybody was like, wow, Ben, your setup, it's so awesome. It's better than us. Because if you see the graphic, which will be on our website, you see I've got the headphones on, the same ones that I'm using now. I've got my microphone. And what you see in the picture is pretty much what it looks like when we're podcasting. So I said, wow, you look so great. It's so much better than us. And well, that's because I'm a professional podcaster, or at least I pretend to be. So finally, the show comes on, and we were already told that Jimmy's going to want to talk to people with tattoos because he's got a fascination with tattoos. So he'd already known that there were 2 people in our group that did. There was Ashley. Well, first there was Shane from New City, New York. If you see the photo, you see he's in the lower right-hand corner, and he's got a Captain America helmet on, wielding a Thor hammer, which was like, okay. And he had a really nice tattoo of Yggdrasil, the Tree of Life, on his leg, of which Jimmy could not understand to save his life. He just seemed totally perplexed by it, but I think the rest of us in our group thought it was awesome. Then he went to Ashley from Winnetka, Illinois, who had some tattoos on her back. But in order to do it, it meant she had to take her shirt off.
And that was a little humorous there.
Yeah, she accidentally, when she eventually gave us a side boob shot.
And they
blurred
that
it.
out,
They blurred it out for television.
It was so funny.
It was hilarious. Keith was plugged in, so even though he couldn't talk or wasn't shown on camera, he was able to listen in on everything. And she was so apologetic. Well, what happened is every time Jimmy went away from the wall to just talk to the audience or talk to the cast and crew, we could still see ourselves. We could not be heard over the air, but we could talk amongst ourselves. And during that time, Ashley was so unbelievably apologetic.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
She felt absolutely terrible over this whole thing. So then finally came to the questions, and there was first they went to Kay from Anchorage, Alaska, and she asked probably the best question of the night, and that was, I think I know the answer to this already, but I wanted to ask all of you, who's the biggest diva on the set?
And of course, they talked amongst themselves.
They chatted amongst themselves.
We want to know who you think is the biggest diva.
Well, we don't, yeah, and the sad part was that Robert Downey Jr. kind of stiffened a little bit. It's like he knew where this was going.
Where is this going? Yes.
But to be fair, unless they were briefed, there's no way he could have known what her answer was going to be.
Right.
He had no idea because we didn't know. So, but you kind of get the feeling that reputation precedes itself.
Yeah.
Because he stiffens just a little bit, and then Scarlett Johansson turns around and she says, I want to know what you think. And Kay says, well, I think it's Robert Downey Jr. He stands up, everybody's laughing or applauding or whatever. He rips his sunglasses off and he says, get that bitch off the screen.
Yeah, it was funny.
It was hilarious. And needless to say, it made national news. I found the story on the net and I forwarded it off to Kay. She had no idea. She thought it was great. And then they asked Elmer of Austin, Texas, his question. And that was, would they talk to his professor in college and ask him to move his, I think it was a history
exam.
Exam. He had a big exam on the same day as the release of Agents of Shield or Agents of Shield. Listen to me, Age of Ultron, and he definitely wanted to be there in line, to catch the first showing. So
yeah,
there was that, and sadly they didn't get to the rest of us.
Yeah, the show ran really long. It ran they did two
segments on this bogus Family Feud game.
So Ben's question was actually the next question to be asked, but they never got to him.
No, and I found out it was supposed to be about Thor and his hair.
So
it was a bummer, but needless to say, we still had a really great time. While a lot of us didn't get to say anything, we all got to chat up with each other, and someone called it your own private little green room without all the food.
Yep.
And in a way, that's true. It was really neat being able to just chat with each other and to see these other fans from different parts of the country. And so I'm going to give shout outs to each and every one of them. There's Ashley from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Yanel from Redding, California, of course Kay from Anchorage, Alaska, Luis from Wilmington, Vermont, Elmer from Austin, Texas, Ashley, show me my tattoos, from Winnetka, Illinois, Griffin from Leominster, MA, Massachusetts, yes. Rita from Farmville, Virginia. Farmville! No, don't play it. Don't play it. No. Kelly from Los Angeles, California. And by the way, I kept saying, Kelly, if you're from Los Angeles, why are you there? Why are you not just across the street from the Jimmy Kimmel Theater and in line for this big premiere at the Dolby Theater?
And it turns out she was supposed to be over there.
She was supposed to be over there.
She was actually just across the street in the Jimmy Kimmel studio recording this.
Go figure. And then there was Faith from Boston, and then Shane from New City, New York. And we did have one surprise. While we were there, we were warned that someone else was going to pop up on the screen, and Jamie, the producer, told us while we were off the air, so to speak, don't make any faces, please. Try to keep your best poker face. And then he goes off and we're all chatting amongst ourselves. Who could it be? Who could it be? Some people, I kept thinking it was going to be Samuel L. Jackson. Somebody else said it was going to be James Spader. I think it was one of the Ashleys was hoping that it was going to be Paul Bettany, who plays Vision in the new movie. And lo and behold, it was Clark Gregg from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. He just popped up. And if anybody has the recording, watch for the scene when that finally happens. It's during the Q&A. Everybody's sitting in the chairs. It's the first segment that they're in right next to Jimmy before they do Family Feud, and Clark just pops up in the lower part of the screen. I saw him pop up, and my mouth just drops open, and then I quickly close it, and I'm like, so it was a fun nerd moment to kind of share a wall with Clark Gregg. So yeah, it was my experience. Everybody, all of our friends saw it. I've had a number of friends who we didn't contact. They've seen it. They've gotten in touch with me, and they said, "Did I see you on the Jimmy Kimmel show?" Well, yeah, you did. I was there. It was a lot of fun. They have my name for any future possibilities for the Wall of America. If they see anything that they think I might be a good fit for, they'll reach out to me to possibly be on the show. So it was a great experience. I hoped that I could be actually talked to or have a chance to chat up our own podcast. I desperately wanted to do that, but it is what it is. It was great fun anyway, and that's my big 5 seconds of fame.
Yeah, so give it a watch. We got the link on the website, and we got the link to all the other trailers. So that should about do it for this episode of TG Geeks Webcast. Remember, you can comment on Facebook or on our website, tggeeks.com, or you can leave us a voicemail at 469-TG-GEEKS. That is 469-844-3357. From TG Squared Studios, I am Keith Lane. Thanks for listening. I bid you peace.
Cheers.